Welcome to Live Well, Dream Big. I'm Suzanne Monroe, founder of the International Association of Wellness Professionals, where I've been teaching people how to live a life of wellness, tap into their passion, and go for their dreams for over 15 years. I believe living well and dreaming big starts with ourselves. This podcast will show you how to create a healthy, holistic life, empower your mindset, follow your dreams, and make a big impact. Let's dive in right now. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Live Well, Dream Big. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode. Today's topic, get clear on why you're here so you can show up powerfully in your life and career. And I'm joined by my team member and IAWP Certified Master Wellness Coach, Laura Albers. And together, we're going to take you through a 3-step process to get clarity about your purpose. Our process is called Know Your Niche. And knowing your niche is something that can help you determine how you're meant to help, who you're meant to help, and really anyone can do it if they want to show up powerfully in their life and career and just have that clarity about your greater purpose and mission in life. So listen in today, get that clarity. And if you enjoy this episode and you want to hear more, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode and share the show with a friend. All right, thanks for tuning in. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be talking with you today about get clear on why you're here so you can show up powerfully in your life and career. Okay, serious rhyming to today's episode title. And we're talking about how to gain clarity, really about who you want to help, how you want to help them, and how you can share your message with those who need it, right? And to help us on this journey, we're going to be talking about a topic called Know Your Niche. Knowing your niche is kind of a process and something we talk a lot about specifically with our wellness coaches and training, really to help them get clarity and make an impact with the work they're doing in the world. But knowing your niche is also something anyone can do and really should do if they want to show up powerfully in their life and career and just be clear on your greater purpose and mission in life. So even if you don't feel like you have a greater purpose or mission yet, getting clear on your niche can really help you with that process and help you to feel more purposeful every day. And then when things get out of balance or you feel overwhelmed, you can come back to your focus of what you are doing, why you're here, and that can really make every day more purposeful and make every day matter. So that's a little bit about what we're talking about today. And I'm joined today with IAWP Master Holistic Wellness Coach, Laura Albers. Hey, Laura.
Hi, glad to be here.
How are you doing today?
Doing well. It's a great topic. So I'm excited to be discussing this with you today.
I'm so glad we're talking about this. And I think we should probably start out defining what a niche is, just so everybody's kind of grounded in what we're talking about. Because even though we talk a lot about a niche in our community, someone might just be beginning their Live Well, Dream Big journey and might not be as familiar with it. So your niche, what is it? It's a specific group of people with a specific problem that can benefit from a specific solution. And so sometimes we think, it's just a group of people or a problem, right? It's all of these things combined. That's what really a niche is. So sometimes we're missing one part or the other, right? Today, we're going to get all of those parts hopefully going for you. And I like to think of it in real simple terms: who, what, and how. Who, what, and how. Okay, so we're going to dive into those components today. But your niche is not just a group of people or just a focus or an area. It really combines all of these elements into kind of this powerful concept that can truly bring clarity to what you do every day. In fact, I'd even argue that if something doesn't fit into who, what, or how of your niche, then you might not want to give it too much attention. We only have so many hours in a day, right? So the more focus we have, the more impact we can actually make. So let's get started. Let's dive into our first Know Your Niche step. And it really starts out on the personal level with who do you want to help? All right. So this first step is just getting clear on why you're here, and it's knowing who you want to help. And this all comes down to who are your people? Who do you resonate most with? What group of tribe or people do you have something in common with? Who has a shared problem that you've maybe experienced in your life that you can help on their journey, right? So, life is full of all sorts of challenges, whether health or wellness related or relationships or careers or so many things that come up in our lives, right? And if we can connect with people who are on a similar journey, I think it can make all the difference. You don't have to feel alone in your journey, right? And you know what? Figuring out the who of what you want to help is an answer that can be really easy for some people and tough for others, because maybe you felt like an outsider your whole life, right? Maybe you haven't really fit in with your family or a group of friends, or you always felt you were different or had different ideas than others around you. And that might have appeared as something kind of negative at and earlier in life at a younger age. But as you consider this now, you can probably start to identify with a group of people as an adult and someone that you connect with, a group of people that maybe, you're making more decisions on your own. You're thinking more about your interests in life. And so just know that your people are out there. And I think the good news is if you think you've been an outsider in any way, you're not alone. And in many ways, our community right here of Live Well, Dream Big listeners are all outsiders, right? Because we often are going on a little bit different path than those around us. Maybe you have a holistic approach to wellness in life, and sometimes that's not what everyone around you is doing. You might be the one trying different things or not going the traditional route. Or maybe you're on the path to discovering what you're meant to do in life. And that can make you feel kind of different from those around you who might just be kind of going through the motions in life, right? Personally, I never really labeled myself as an outsider or thought of myself that way. But I think as time went on and I reflect back, I guess in many ways, I always did feel a little different from other people, right? I always wanted to do something different, kind of carve my own path. And for a long time, I just didn't know anyone else around me who felt the same way. But then I decided to find my people, to find the who, right? Hey, everyone out there, my people. But here's the thing. To find your people, you have to find yourself. So if you want to help people, you have to first help yourself. So it's really important to find your own tribe as you consider who you want to help, because it's twofold. They're also going to help and support you. And that's because I think stepping up in this way, claiming who you are and who you're meant to help, who you're meant to guide, to serve, to coach, to teach, to lead. It's not only about you helping others, but you go on this incredible personal growth journey yourself, and you learn so much about yourself. But you have to really be willing to look inward and consider your own journey in order to do all that. And I think a great starting point is just considering your own story, taking a really good look at it. Take that time to even write out your own journey, your own personal story from even childhood till now. I think you'll find that you've gone on a journey, and one that, while it might feel really unique to you, it's probably a shared journey in many ways. There are other people who have experienced a similar journey. There's points where you can connect with people. So who are they? How can you get connected to them? Those are your people. That's where you start really with your story. And Laura, those are kind of some of my thoughts. What are your thoughts on this whole idea of getting clear on the who of your niche and who your people are?
Oh, yes. Well, I love what you've shared so far, and I can so resonate with all of it, really. Especially that to find your tribe, you have to find yourself. I loved that. So, I've got a few just kind of tips or just some things to sort of keep in mind as you're talking about your who, you're talking about your niche, or who you want to help. And what we find is that it's really, really common to find our tribe or, to want to help others with a challenge that we've personally experienced in our own lives. And that can be a really great way to give meaning to the challenges we've been through, help us continue healing, and really just to be of service and connection to others. But often, though, we find too that, because we've all, most of us anyway, have been through multiple life challenges or lessons or transitions, and we see many different kinds of people and challenges that we can help with. And while it's great to be multi-passionate, we can find that frequently our tribe, which is often wellness coaches or those considering becoming a wellness coach, or just at least those with an interest in wellness, they often get stuck because they want to fit all of their stories, all of their interests, all of their past challenges into one niche. Or they try to serve multiple niches all at once, and then struggle feeling overwhelmed and uncertain with how to do that. And I definitely had been there myself. So the general advice here is just to choose one niche, group, or one challenge to start with, knowing that you can always pivot, or you can always add additional programs or service or offerings, or even another niche or niche, however we're saying it, at a later time. So it's just not all at once. And so we really refer to this really as your niche for now.
Yeah, I love that niche, who knows? But I love what you said because, you focus on one group of people to get started, even if you have these multiple stories and interests and challenges, right? So, and this is one thing we're actually teaching with our master coaches in training right now in our Master Coach Academy program, that you have these micro stories, right? They're within your big story. You have these micro stories. So you want to pull out these micro stories and decide which ones you really want to focus on, because these ultimately are going to become how you will connect with your tribe. But it's pretty common that if you have different micro stories, they're probably meant for kind of different groups of people. So it's really, like you said, important to start with one, and the reason behind that is it would just be way too overwhelming to try to do all of them at the same time. I also want to mention that I think most people listening to our podcast want to help or serve or make a difference in some way, right? You're heart-centered by nature. You usually choose career paths or activities in life because you want to have more meaning, and you don't just want to go through the motions in life. So part of living well and dreaming big is really feeling in alignment with what we do every day and how we're showing up and who we're in connection with and how we can help others. So I think the who of this is it's so important in our lives. It just matters so deeply, right? And so you start with one group and you go deep there and you really dive into that. And that does bring that meaning. And like you said, Laura, you can expand, you can pivot, you can change, but you got to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that.
All right. So we just talked about the who and some ideas, right? And again, you're like, who? I don't know. Well, it does start with who are you? What's your story? And looking at all those mini stories or micro stories that make up the big story, right? And maybe just choosing 2 or 3 to kind of look at and see what comes through, see what comes next. But because then step 2 is all about, okay, helping others. What problem do you want to help with? Right. And this is going to bring more clarity to the who as well. Because what is the problem you want to help people with? Or what is the shared interest or cause that you want to come together around? For example, you might say, well, okay, I'm a mom of 4 kids and my journey has really been about this whole journey of motherhood, and my tribe are other mothers. All right, that's kind of step 1. Great. But within that group of moms, there's multiple interests and challenges and problems, and getting clear on that is going to bring more clarity to how you can actually help them or how you can be connected to them and really serve and show up. So, for example, a group of moms or dads, right, might be struggling with balancing careers and mothering young children. Now, that story, that journey, that problem is really different than, say, maybe a stay-at-home mom who has a different experience and different challenges, or and maybe is not out there, like, let's say, in a career right now. Or let's say a mother who has older children, right? That mother or parent is experiencing totally different problems. So you think of a group of people, but when you think about the problem, it does start to narrow down kind of where they are in life right now, right? So you find that problem, that shared challenge or interest, and then you can start to get really clear. And I think while knowing who you want to help, knowing what you want to help them with specifically is really important to gaining clarity, both for you and what you want to do in the world, but also it's really about for those you want to help, because it's kind of like a clear sign that says, oh, you can help me. Okay, I hear what you're saying, right? I'm actually just reminded of an example of someone in our community as I think about this. Janet Thompson Jackson. She went to law school to become a lawyer. She came out, she was in a position teaching and supporting other law students at her university. And she had this kind of inkling that she was meant to be doing something a little different, something more, but she wasn't sure what it was, right? So she really dove into her own story and her own journey, the who part. And it was all about this journey of being a law student, right? Not only did she go through that herself, but now she was helping those people. And then she started to think about the what. Okay, what are the problems and challenges that she faced as a law student? Burning the candle at both ends and experiencing huge amounts of stress and anxiety. And she was seeing this now in the people she was helping. So she could have helped law students with passing their exams, but to her, the shared problem about the who that tied to her unique story and how she uniquely wanted to help people was around this idea of overcoming stress. So now she's helping law students and lawyers to end their stress and take a more balanced approach to wellness. But you can see how one person's journey ties into the who and the what, and how that clarity is so huge. And for her, she got that clarity, and now she's really focused on that who and what, and it's brought a lot of meaning for her. So I just thought about that as I was kind of sharing a little bit about this.
Yeah, I love that example, and it really highlights all of that. And I just think, as you said, it's so important to recognize like once you get more specific, like you can really start to see how different the challenges and the struggles and all of that are for one group of people, even though they might look kind of similar, and the results that they want often are going to look different depending on what's going on with them. So I love that you shared all of that. It's so important. I just kind of wanted to add a couple of things to that. One thing to consider here is really whether or not the people you want to help know they have a challenge or a problem. And are they willing and able to invest in solving their problem? Because I think those are two really important additional pieces to all of this. This also reminds me of an example, a personal example here. When I first started my coaching business, I was trying to target helping professionals like therapists, healthcare workers, clergy, and I was trying to help them with their self-care. I knew that so many in this group are super stressed out, often burnt out and overwhelmed. And of course, they're caring for so many different people, of course. But what I actually found was that in general, this group was more resistant to their own self-care. And so often what I was hearing from them is that they, didn't have the time, the money, or the energy to invest in themselves since they were so busy caring for everyone else. And so I personally found it was a struggle, for me. And, I still provide education and tips and things like that on self-care. I now do it for a different group of people, really primarily wellness coaches. And that just allows me to better support them so they can support all the clients that they work with. So I think that's important. Like when you're thinking of a niche, particularly if you're, a wellness coach or you are an entrepreneur, you want to make sure that your niche or niche knows that they have a problem or a challenge and that they're willing to invest in solving their problem. Any thoughts on that, Suzanne?
Well, yeah, I love what you're saying. It's kind of this like spectrum of awareness. Like where are people in the journey to wanting to be helped, right? You look at someone, they have a group of people might have a problem, but within that problem, it's like, how long have you had that problem? Is it something that you even want to deal with? So I think if you want to help people with a specific problem, you have to ensure that they want to be helped in some way, right? So you have to find if that's a connection point. Otherwise, what happens is, I think you feel like you're making that difference but then you start to get unclear. You're like, okay, so not only do you want to get clear, but you want to help people who want to also get clear and be helped and supported, like you're saying. And I like, what you said in terms of investing in yourself as well. If you're in business for yourself, that really matters, right? That's super important. Otherwise, you can't go on helping and serving people. And if you're in a career, let's say a different career within an organization, you can also bring this niche focus to what you do. But you might also be someone listening in who's looking to have a niche, maybe in a volunteer or a community position. And in this case, you want people to invest their time or energy to a cause or a shared interest, right? So this investment in time and energy, it can show up in different ways. The point is you have your who and your what, and you also want to make sure that they care enough about the problem that you want to solve so that you can actually solve it together. It's kind of like co-solving it because it is a shared journey, right? You're solving it together and they have to be willing to go on that journey as well. I think all great points, Laura.
Yeah, love that. Yeah.
Well, we've been talking about who, we've been talking about what. Let's talk about the third part of getting clear and knowing your niche. It's the how of the formula, right? Who, what, and how. So how are you going to help your niche? You know who you want to help, you know what you want to help on, the topic, and now you want to answer how can you best help them? And this all comes down to how you want to share your message with those who need it, right? And it's really unique to you, how you want to show up and help others. But what is the solution or support you're going to provide? Is there a particular career that you want to transition that will help you to be more in alignment with your niche and really be able to show up and help them? Or can you use your current role in your career to create this focus, right? Not everyone needs to go on the journey of starting their own business or becoming an entrepreneur. Like you might be able to do it within a different position. Is there volunteer work that you would want to do to be able to have that niche focus? Or do you want to get involved in your community in some way where you can really live out your purpose, right? Do you want to share your message through social media to your network? There's so many different ways that you can show up. Of course, over here at the IAWP, we're sort of biased to the field of coaching because we know just how powerful it can be to really create an impact and find that alignment with your purpose, because you get to really choose the path you want to go on and you get to customize it to what you want to do and who you want to help, right? So you choose who you want to help, what problem you want to focus on, and how you're going to help them. And you can choose your niche and get really clear on why you're here and then just like go go for it. And that's super fulfilling, right? So yeah, we're biased to coaching because it gives you that opportunity. But again, I think you can do this in so many different ways. I'm also thinking of another example from our community just to kind of give people an idea. I was just talking with Sandra Payne in our community, who is a registered nurse, and she's actually going through Master Coach Academy right now as well. But her story is such a great example. I mean, she loved helping people. She's into wellness and health, and she went into the field of nursing. The problem was she got burned out very quickly. It's a high burnout career, right? Even now, more than ever with the pandemic, but even before that. So well, she knew the what of her niche, right? Wellness, something within wellness she wanted to help people with. The who was a little bit foggy, right? Because was she going to leave her field and her career of nursing? What was going to happen? So the how wasn't really that clear because nursing itself was burning her out. But she was able to get clear on her niche. And she realized that by thinking about the who and really looking at her own story, she's a nurse and her tribe is nurses, right? So now she's helping nurses overcome their own burnout, and she's doing that through her coaching programs, right? So she was able to get that clarity on why she was here when she defined her niche and then really kind of repositioned herself. So I think it's interesting how you can be doing one thing and somehow you can feel like, oh my gosh, this isn't the right fit for me anymore. I don't like this anymore. And yet oftentimes it's a part of your journey and it still shows up in another way. But it's like you said before, Lars, there's like a little bit of a pivot or a change sometimes that allows you to really step further into your purpose. And now Sandra, she's doing everything she used to love and more and not doing the parts that she didn't like. And she's making really an even bigger impact. So I share that because maybe life doesn't feel quite right. You don't have that clarity yet, but you can start using this 3-step process that we're talking about today to get that clarity about who you want to help, how you're going to help them, and how you can really share your message. And then you can start to bring more of that meaning. Of course, just listening in live right now or, listening to this episode, it could still be foggy, but I encourage you to kind of go back through these 3 steps and really kind of work through each of the things that we shared today on your own, maybe through a journaling process, and just kind of see what comes up because I think there's something there for everyone to discover. Laura, what are your thoughts on how people can really start to share their message and show up powerfully?
Yeah, well, I wanted to comment really quickly before we dive into that piece of it too, because I love that example with Sandra Payne and her nursing example. It's been really neat to watch all of that unfold. And I know for me personally, like I mentioned earlier, I had, started out doing more self-care for, helping professionals. And so being a mental health therapist myself in the past, it was, I really wanted to work with that group, but I wanted to kind of get out of that, which, of course, brought me to wellness coaching, which I totally agree on everything you said about how amazing it is, possibly biased here, but yeah, so then I realized I actually like helping therapists build their practices. So therapists that go into private practice. And so I've kind of started doing that a little bit more as well. So I think it also highlights sometimes you give people what they think they want, and then you're actually giving them what they need, because part of the work that I do now and helping them to build their practices is helping them with self-care. And so I kind of found like a sort of a backdoor way, I guess, if you will, to be able to serve them in a way that's even better or more comprehensive, if you will, than it was before. So I think the how can evolve over time, and I'll definitely share a little bit more on that. But that example just kind of sparks that in my mind. So
okay, I love that. I just want to pause there, right? Yeah. So like this whole idea was you started out, you were going to help people who were helping others with their own self-care, but they're like, oh my gosh, I don't have time for that. But they're like, ooh, I do have time to like work on my business. But then in doing so, you're still helping them with their self-care, right? So it's kind of like, what's top of mind? What's sort of that lowest hanging fruit? What is the one thing that's going to help people to start going on the journey to get helped? And they don't even know how big and beautiful it can be. And I think that's such an important message, especially for coaches out there, because I know you have so much to give and share. And sometimes it's like, okay, how do I get that all into one thing? And sometimes focusing on a niche initially feels limiting, right? Because you're focused on that one problem, or maybe the thing that, you're like, there's so much more to this. But guaranteed, allow people to step through that doorway and you're going to get to help them with the whole big world of things. But you got to go on a step-by-step process and kind of help people along on that journey.
Yes, so true. So true. Yeah. So I wanted to share as well, like, for the entrepreneurs and wellness coaches out there that are listening, how you help your niche and how you share your message is all about consistency. So I really want to highlight this because I think we see this so much, or at least I've experienced this. You don't need to be on every single social media platform or doing Facebook Lives, creating YouTube videos, doing weekly newsletter, a podcast, like all the things, right? So it's really about choosing one medium, maybe that you most enjoy, where your tribe, of course, is hanging out, and like be consistent on there, consistently show up there and consistently show up for them. And so while it's good to, stay up on what other coaches are doing, you don't try to emulate or think, okay, well, now I've got to do their strategies too. Otherwise, I guarantee you that is probably one of the quickest ways to feel overwhelmed, spread yourself too thin, and really to burn out. And then I want to add too, for those of you who are considering just a possible career change or who would like to volunteer, give back, or, just get a taste of being of service, remember that you don't have to go all in. And so an example I have, that I've experienced with this is that I've got several coaching clients that I've been working with that work in the corporate financial world. And so it's interesting that there's three of them that really they're very successful with the clients that they're serving now. And they're working primarily with clients who are already very successful and kind of well off. And so they're helping them invest their money. But what they'd really like to do is help single moms or couples just starting out, but don't, but they're just not really happy or, living, their passion, that kind of thing. And so they were feeling like either I've got to quit my current job and, start my own business and like start out all on my own, or I've got to stay where I'm currently at and just not feel quite fulfilled, just feeling like there's something sort of missing or they could be doing more. And so we've kind of talked about, it doesn't have to be either or. Like there's a lot of gray there and there's a lot of opportunities to not have to go all in because that can feel pretty scary and overwhelming. So it's just important to look at other possibilities or ways of meeting their values and passions and really look for the gray. And so some of the next steps that we came up with were, just to reach out to professionals in their field who seem to be doing what they want to be doing and working with the niche they want to be working with, and just setting up a virtual coffee date to learn more about them, learn more about their work. And this was very eye-opening for them. So one of my clients then went on to job shadow one of the women that she connected with. The woman, did open up her own business and is now possibly going to work with her full time. But that did not happen overnight. This was a process, a journey. She kind of dipped the toe in, if you will, by just reaching out to people. And most of the time, I've been not surprised, but just most of the time you'll find that when you reach out to somebody and you want to ask them questions or you want to learn more about them, people are really, really willing to help or kind of mentors. So don't be afraid to reach out to people. It doesn't matter if you don't know them. That's the beauty, I think, of the internet and social media and things like that is you can connect with people that maybe had been sort of unapproachable or you never just would have known about before. So I think it's great to think about what are some of those maybe smaller steps too I can take so that you don't have to make the full leap, but you can do it in a more confident and less scary kind of way. Any thoughts on that, Suzanne?
Well, what a great example of how to get started with getting more clear, right? Like I like how you said, look for the gray, because I think when you're in that struggle and in that pain, you feel stuck and everything does feel like black and white. It's like, okay, I only have one option or the other. And so we feel stuck in our lives at our positions at work or the roles we're leading, when really what we want to do may not be that far out of reach, but we have to go into the gray, as you said, start connecting with others, looking for how we can serve and kind of dipping our toe in the water. And oftentimes that's how the journey unfolds. And so, yeah, I think that's fantastic, because I think the minute you start doing that, opportunities and ideas do start showing up, right? But otherwise you stay stuck thinking, oh, I can't do either or of these things. And it's really, it's just taking that first step on the journey.
Absolutely. And not to get too woo-woo here, but, I feel like when you're taking those next steps to connect with people who might be doing what you want to be doing, I feel like it kind of puts that energy out into the universe of, hey, I'm open, I'm ready to receive, I'm exploring, I just like the energy that puts out there as well.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me when I first got started in changing my careers. I was like in a job that I didn't love at all. And now as you're talking about this, I really did feel like I might either have to quit and figure something out or just stay here forever, right? But at some point I was like, no, there is a gray. I didn't use that terminology, but I stepped into it. And I went to a career counselor at the time, right? And just going through that process just got me thinking and really learning about new things and kind of doing that self-reflection process. And even doing that, I remember just being like, this is so great. I really loved it. In fact, I was like, oh, I kind of want to do what this person is doing, right? So you just never know how taking that first step can really show up and how things are going to come together for you. And that's why you have to get started on the journey. You just got to do it. And that's the best way to get unstuck is just put the next step in front and take that next step.
Yes, love that.
Well, as usual, we've covered a lot today. Quick recap, how to get clear on why you're here. Start with knowing your niche, the who, the what, and the how. And I think if you take some time, again, to kind of really go through this process for yourself, journal this out, maybe listen to the episode and put it on pause, go through each of the phases here, I think you're going to see some interesting things come out on paper. You might even find your purpose or your path staring right back at you. And if not, you might just find what that little next step is. So I highly encourage you to do that. All right, let's switch gears now. Go to our talk back time where we're joined by our live listeners, all holistic wellness coaches here at the IAWP. Hey, everybody out there. I'd love to connect with you and hear a little bit more about what's coming up for you today, your thoughts and ideas and any breakthroughs or questions. So let's go live. Hey, Sherry out there. Hi there.
Hi. So I am working on trying to figure out what my niche is, and I kind of know what I want to do, but I haven't solved the problem yet myself. So is that a bad niche to then pursue? I mean, I'm looking forward to doing it because then I do solve that problem myself in the process. But like when it comes down to really defining it and offering, oh, here's what works to people, I don't have that yet.
I love this question. This is the best. This is the best. Okay. Because you're not alone. Like this is a thing that comes up for people, especially in the coaching field where we're like, okay, I have not fully solved this problem yet. How can I actually show up and help people? And usually that's the very problem you're meant to solve. Okay. Because you don't have to have solved the problem. You just have to be like one or two steps ahead of someone else. And not only is that, what's refreshing about it is that you get to be on the journey with people and kind of share with them where you are, right? So you're like, hey, here's what happened for me this week. Here's what's been going on. And here's what I did to kind of work through this challenge. Like how much more impactful is that than somebody who's like, 500 steps ahead and was kind of disconnected from the problem. I think it can be very powerful. And I get the hang up is like, hey, I haven't totally solved this. But if you can help people that are only like one or two steps behind you that are maybe just beginning that journey. And I think the thing is too, as we step into this field, into wellness and to coaching, like we don't always realize it, but just by doing that, you have so much to offer. You have so much knowledge and information and support that can come through that, you're definitely probably already just a few steps ahead of those you want to help. What do you think? I mean, does that resonate or how does that feel? And Laura, I know you probably have some thoughts as well.
It does. It just makes me feel a little like inauthentic. You know what I mean? Like telling people, hey, I can help you with this when I really haven't done it myself. And yeah, I agree that I am further along than what people just starting out are. But I guess like when I look at my signature system, I want to put that together. And I'm like, I don't really know what the answer is yet because I haven't totally gotten there.
Yeah. And I think that's a key point that you just said. The reason you wouldn't go on this is that it feels inauthentic. So the only way to go on the journey is to be authentic. So you would have to come from the place of like, hey, this is what my life is about. Like, this is where I am and this is what I'm working on. You can't put on a false thing saying I've totally solved this. You'd have to show up authentically. Here's a great example. When I was first started in wellness coaching, I was helping people with sugar cravings. And so I hadn't completely solved my own sugar cravings at all, right? But I had found some tools that work for me, but I still had them, right? And I was able to be like, oh my gosh, here's what I ate this week and here's what I did. Like, and so people were like, wow, that's in a way that was kind of refreshing because I had the tools and I was trying them out and doing it kind of along the journey with them. So I think you have to kind of play with that and be like, if I can do it authentically, then yes. If I can't, then it's maybe it's maybe you just still have more to grow and learn on that journey. But also because you're here, because you're on the journey and you're working on yourself, my sense is that a lot's going to happen for you, even in a short period of time, so that by the time you get to, hey, I'm really ready to be helping people, this journey is going to evolve and you're going to be even further along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wanted to add a couple things too. I love this question too, because it comes up so often. I think so many of us can relate to this. I know I can for sure. And I see in the chat, a lot of people can relate as well. First of all, I think it's be the guide, not the guru, which, we say a lot around here. I think that's so important. But also I will say, I think this makes it even like clearer, if you will, of why the who, what, and how is so important of your niche. Because what I'll say is, like, for me, for example, I do primarily business coaching, like mindset, productivity, and business coaching now. But like, I've never been on Twitter. So for example, if somebody was really interested in a Twitter strategy for their business, like, I'm not the person for them, and that's okay. So you're not going to be for everyone, and that's okay. That's actually a good thing. But when you start to get clearer on your niche and specifically who it is that you can help with one or two steps, or a piece of their overall challenge or something, like, that's going to be so impactful. So I think there's just some great work for you to continue to do and explore. And I just encourage you just to keep going. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great question.
Great question, Sherry. Thanks so much for sharing. I think it's also important to just say, like, there's a spectrum of where people are on their journey. So sometimes when we think about a niche or a group of people we want to help, and I've been talking about this a lot in our launch labs with our coaches and training, it's like, okay, you kind of zero in on this group, but even within that group, right, there's some people just beginning the journey. Some have been on the journey for a while. Some are been on it a long time. And there's different points on this spectrum of where people are. And even getting clear on that changes how you talk to those people, changes your solution, changes how you show up. So even for Sherry, who shared before, maybe those people, she's like 2 steps ahead on the journey. Maybe her people are the people just starting that journey, and they need to start finding the resources and tools, right? And like, she knows all those resources and tools because she's going on the journey. Doesn't mean she's totally solved the problem, but maybe her goal she's showing up to be a guide for them to have someone on that journey because you didn't have somebody on that journey, for example. So I think sometimes, again, we're like, okay, we're looking at such a broad, big picture, but when we start to really look in closer, we see that people are at different points on that journey, and where can we step in on that journey to help them? Let's go over to Caroline.
Hello.
Hi, how are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
This has been really helpful, so thank you for everybody who's shared. A bit of background on me. I'm a yoga teacher and massage therapist who has been specializing really in pain relief. And I'm really sort of in this spin about what my niche is, because I also feel that stress and anxiety is a sort of a very big thing with the world and my clients. Now, do you think that if I focused on stress and anxiety from my coaching perspective, how would the tribe be? Because I feel like that's a whole world thing, and I'm just sort of struggling on if that would be a good niche where I would focus that on, because my clients honestly have been mainly referred to me from pain management through physical therapists. So they're the whole spectrum of just anybody who has gone to a physical therapist. So I'm feeling quite strongly about the stress and anxiety aspect from my personal experiences with benefiting from yoga and massage therapy. but I'm struggling with who specifically my tribe could be. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, I think you're getting really clear on the what, right? Sometimes we start with the who and sometimes we start with the what and sometimes we start with the how. So you don't have to do it in this 3-step order. You might be going in reverse, right? So in your case, you're like, wow, I'm super passionate about helping people overcome stress and anxiety. This is where I really want to focus in. And you're like, wow, that's the entire world right now. So, hey, everybody, I'm available. Okay. And here's the thing about what we do as coaches is that the work that we do, it can help almost anybody. Right. So the truth is you could help anybody. And you've had that experience as you've stepped out and worked within this physical therapy setting and pain management. Everything you're doing can help a wide variety of people. But we're also in the business of marketing and sharing our message. And the best way to do that is to narrow in on a group so they can hear what you're saying. So you could choose any group right now that is experiencing stress and anxiety. But the best thing to do is to connect your own story, because as you share that message and put that out there, there's a real resonance when it comes to coaching if you've gone on that journey. I mean, you don't have to do that, but I would say in 90% of the cases, our coaches somehow tie their own personal story to the group of people they're helping, because it really does create that deeper connection, right? So I would say right now, a great exercise for you would be like, okay, stress and anxiety. Either one, let me look at my whole story and my journey, write that story out and be like, what were different times in my life where I was kind of wearing different hats, maybe different archetypes of myself, that I experienced stress and anxiety. You know, you've got different roles that you play. And so that can help identify some groups. But you ultimately want to narrow it down to even 3 groups right now that you feel connected to because of your experience that are really struggling with stress and anxiety. And then you've got these 3 groups, and that's an amazing starting point because you don't have to decide right away. You can kind of start dipping your toe in the water, tracking your tribe, as we call it, going out, connecting with different people in these 3 groups and starting to hear their language, starting to narrow down and be like, eventually the one is going to rise to the top, be like, this is the group I'm going to help. What do you think about that?
I really like that. I think from my own personal journey, I had a lot of stress and anxiety in my early life. And so and therefore I had a lot of physical pain. You know, when I went to physical therapists and doctors, they weren't necessarily connecting the two, but I realized that my physical pain was due to stress and anxiety and, you know, life events. So I'm seeing that connection and that story, and about how what I do will kind of mesh together. And I need to think more on who these 3 groups are, but that's incredibly helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'd also say this, as you shared a little bit more about your story and your career path and working in pain management, and then about your personal journey where you realized your pain was tied to your stress, is that your problem might be more specifically defined on this area of pain and specific types of pain that are showing up for people. Because most people are saying they wake up every day, they're feeling stressed, but if they're feeling pain in their body, that's really the lowest hanging fruit, where they're like, this is what I'm waking up feeling every single day. And then your solution becomes more about addressing stress in their life to solve that pain. So as you're talking, I'm feeling like the problem is more about a specific type of pain that people are experiencing. Your solution is about overcoming stress to solve that pain issue. And now we just got to decide who this is for. Wow, you're almost there.
Thank you. That's fantastic.
I just wanted to add too that I love the idea of the lowest hanging fruit. So I mean, just like starting there. I just think that'll be really great. You kind of give people what they think they want, and then you actually give them what they need. And you know they need the stress and the anxiety management and all the other things that you do.
Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the things I've noticed, and of course this is just a human state, is that within my sessions, massage therapy or yoga, you know, we always talk about things that could be done between the sessions. And of course, no one does it. You know, people will joke with me, let's just admit it, I'm not going to do my homework. So I'm thinking that that's where I sort of segue into the benefit of having coaching then, and still have this as the pain focus.
Right. Because right within that whole pain management group is there's multiple groups of people. Some are like, hey, just fix me. I'm coming in for my pain therapy and I'm not interested in really doing the other work. So now we have another group of people who are like, I'm interested in doing the other work, right? So two different groups of people. And so then you continue to even fine tune your message, because your ideal clients are those who want that coaching and support, not those who want the quick fix. So you're gonna keep segmenting as you get more clear here.
This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm glad you shared. Anybody else need to talk niche and get a breakthrough? Now's the time. Let's go over to Joy. Joy's on the road joining us. I love it. Hey, Joy.
Hi, thanks so much. Yes, I've just picked up my daughter from ballet. So just wanted to carry on from what Caroline was saying. I don't know where you are in the program yet, Caroline, but last year I found I was seeing practice clients, and I was actually saying that I was helping just mothers with burnout, and they didn't even have burnout. They didn't even know sort of what that was. They hadn't had burnout, but they sort of knew the word and knew the terminology. So I was getting these mothers who were coming to see me, but actually what I found is most of the people who were coming to see me were highly sensitive people, which was really interesting, which is what I am. And at the time just saw myself as a mother who was burnt out. But that's how I've been able to really nail my who is the majority of the people that were coming to me with these feelings of burning out, which were again like stress and anxiety, were actually these highly sensitive people. So I just wanted to add that by actually doing the practice coaching really got me clear on the who.
Wow.
I love that you share that, right? Because we can sit all day here in our little box and discuss the who, what, and how, and like get it all crafted into our perfect sentence. But it really doesn't matter until you show up in the world, go out there and start helping real people. You got to start helping real people to get that clarity. And when you do, exactly like what you're saying, you get these little nuances and these little things that pop up, and it happens when you're helping real people. So I love that so much.
Yes. I wanted to add too, Joy, you brought up a really, really great point, or something to keep in mind, which is, first of all, the more practicing you do become more clear on the language that your specific niche uses. And that is so important. And it sounds like one of the things maybe that you found is like, I was using this word burnt out, but they didn't really maybe know, or that wasn't actually the word that they were using. So I just think that's a really good point, and something to really, for all, everyone listening, to really keep in mind, is that you absolutely want to use and need to use the language and phrases and words that your ideal niche uses. And you may not know that really clearly in the beginning, but that's why we practice. That's why we talk to people. That's, it evolves over time, but that's such an important piece I wanted to highlight too.
Yeah, I love that. That is so huge, right? We have to be helping real people to really hear how they're describing their problem. Because even if it is our own story and journey, again, even if we're a few steps away, like it's already happened maybe, or maybe there's more to learn about how we talk about it. So that is such a key point. Let's go over now to Olivia. Hey, Olivia.
Hello, everyone. Hi. So I'm still pretty new. I'm on coming to the end of module 2. So my question is, I haven't done any practicing yet. I've got a potential practice client and some peer coaching to do. But my question is, do you think, I have loads of different ideas for niches. I really need to narrow it down. Do you recommend practicing amongst people in those niches, or do you think go broad, or what's the best way to start doing practice clients?
I think, and Laura, you might have something to say about this as well, but I'll just start out by saying that when you're first getting started, like where you are, first of all, it's great that you're already thinking, okay, I'm kind of thinking about different niche groups, but I'm also doing practice coaching and getting ready to do that. And with practice coaching, you can kind of go different ways, because on one level, you really want to be practicing the coaching method, practicing Wellness 360, and seeing how that plays out with a variety of people. You don't have to have a niche to do that. And just by doing that, you're going to get so much experience and be like, oh, wow, I can see how this can help this niche and this group, right? On the other hand, if you have these specific groups that you're interested in, that's a great place to go out and try to connect with practice clients, because I think it's going to inform your journey. So it can kind of be either or, if that makes sense.
Okay, good. So because I have a practice client, and she's not necessarily in the niche I want to go in, but it's probably beneficial to practice on her anyway. Yeah. And then find other people.
I was just going to add too, I think sometimes we see where, I don't think this is necessarily the case for you. You're only module 2 and looking at practicing, which is fabulous. But sometimes I've seen where I don't know my niche, so I can't start practicing yet. And so sometimes like not knowing your niche can hold somebody back. And we definitely don't want that. So I think any kind of practice is going to be amazing. And yeah, as Suzanne said too, if you're able to do it in these possible niches, that might help you gain more clarity if like you're drawn to one over the other or something like that. Sure. So yeah, even better. But yeah, any practice will be great.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question.
Well, welcome to the community. So glad you're on this call. Any other questions, thoughts, support, breakthroughs? Now's the time. Let's go over to Sabrina.
Hello.
Hey, Sabrina.
Hello, everyone. So this has been great, especially since our class, workshop yesterday, just really narrowing it down. And then when I think I find my who, and then Laura, you had mentioned, I think you mentioned about finding, educators or certain people who don't want to invest in their self-care, right? So then I go, oh boy, okay, right? Artists or educators, how's that going to work, right? Because, but it's also leading me to, and I had this conversation with Heidi, who's my peer coach. Last month I had so many practice clients and I'm on a roll, and I was working with, I think, 6 or 8 of them. And now, I have one that turned out to be a paying client, but now I'm kind of like stopped. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that kind of put me in a certain way, right? I'm still trying to figure out my niche, getting that so that I could do my signature system. But I feel like that momentum that I had going now has come to a halt. Mm-hmm. So any suggestions?
Yeah, because in this process, it's kind of interesting. You were like doing all the practice coaching, like kind of keeping that going. And now you're like, okay, I'm kind of done with practicing, right? Like, okay, I'm ready, right? But then there's like a little bit of this gap. So I think you have a couple of options. One is you're like, okay, I'm willing to kind of stay in this gap as I fine tune my niche and like then kind of start showing up in this new position. Or now that I'm really getting more clear on my niche, I'm going to take on a couple of other people either as practice clients or kind of like, hey, I'm taking you on as a special rate as, my first few clients or whatever you're taking on, you're kind of going to that next step, but you're only willing to do it to say for like 5 people. You're like, okay, I'm going to take the next 5 people and I'm going to use it as a way to help me also really fine tune my niche right now, because I know I'm kind of stuck between these 2 groups. So I'm only going to work with people in these 2 groups rather than before I was just doing practice coaching with anybody. So you kind of have to say, okay, where am I on the journey and how can I still keep that momentum going? And I think for you, it's like, okay, like Laura said before, okay, I don't totally know my niche, so what do I do? Okay, but you have some ideas right now. So let's see if you can bring in a couple people within those ideas, because I think that process is going to help you fine tune and do it in a way that maybe you did differently before. Maybe practice coaching before was really long. Maybe you had, it went on for 3 or 4 months or whatever. This is a great time to practice setting up how you're going to set up your program, right? Or to just offer, hey, I'm just going to be doing this for like 3 power sessions, right? Because it's a benefit to both people to kind of learn and have that support. So you can structure it differently kind of during this intermediary phase that you are to kind of keep that momentum going for yourself and get more clarity.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to add too, like for my own experience, this was several years ago that I was trying to work kind of more with helping professionals. And so first of all, as we know, COVID has happened. And, we know first responders and a lot of people in those healthcare or helping type professions. It might be totally different now, just even for that reason. But also, I think it's so important, like how you position it. I would do things differently. So I don't want to say or for you to think like, well, just forget it. That is definitely not a doable niche, So I think, but I think it's important to be aware of course. So you definitely want to do kind of that market research or, kind of test the waters, if you will.
Okay, thanks.
Right. And I will say one more thing, Sabrina, as I'm thinking about your unique situation. I think too, it's like, hey, it's really easy to put out there that you're doing practice coaching and sure, everyone wants free coaching, right? And you're like, wait, now what do I do? I think also that You could offer some complimentary coaching to people within your 2 or 3 potential niche ideas, but to really set the stage and to do it in like where you're only having 3 sessions or a shorter amount of time. And it could be a great way for people to experience coaching with you, and then for you to also move them to becoming official paid coaching clients after this shorter experience. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody because they're getting the support, you're learning more about your niche. And for those that it's a really great fit for, you're only going to have begun kind of exploring their problem and getting some of those first wins. And then you kind of move them into your actual coaching program after that. So I feel like that could be like a good hybrid kind of next move for you. I don't know if that resonates or not.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
That's actually what I do. That's one of the services I have in my business too. It's like a 90-minute kind of that power hour, that VIP strategy session. And some clients go on and say, oh, okay, great. Now I want to work on this and this and this. And great. So we'll kind of have another sort of mini discovery call to really iron that out. And some just really need that 90-minute sort of power session. And so that's been really helpful too. You can kind of meet clients where they're at and, what they need.
Love it. Let's go over to Jennifer. Hey, Jennifer.
Hi there.
Hi.
Great to see you both, everyone on here. This has been wonderful. And as well, I'm trying to narrow in with my niche. So thank you for all the pointers. I do have a question, Laura. You were mentioning about consistency with social media. Right now, I do find I am spreading myself quite thin because I'm part of LinkedIn, there's Twitter, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's YouTube, like there's all of those. Mm-hmm. And then there's another one even in our community that started up and somehow I ended up on that. Mm-hmm. And I'm just wondering, like, as far as I am with that mentality of wanting to be consistent without being overboard, because, I see from other people, it's like it's constant, mm-hmm. and you kind of just flip through because you want to make an impact. So I guess my question is just helping to guide me with that as far as, or us, all of us on here, with the different social media platforms, how many really, you were saying like 1 or 2, maybe I should focus on, and then mm-hmm. consistently how often I should be putting my message out mm-hmm. there and sharing and guiding.
Yeah, and I want to share this too, Laura, before you jump in, is that this is something right now we're really diving into deep. We're going to be diving into Supercharge Your Social with the System with our master coaches in training. I'll just give you guys kind of a sneak peek into this, right? It's really about choosing your perfect platform for your ideal coaching client. So right now, someone somewhere told you have to be doing all of this, and you're like, I'm going to be fear of missing out if I'm not on all these platforms. Yes, you can find a couple of platforms, and of course you can post in one and they connect to the other with all this great technology. But it really does come down to, where's your tribe hanging out? Because you as a coach might think you have to be on all these mm-hmm. platforms, but likely your ideal clients have one main place where they go to connect. So it's really important to discover where are they connecting. Just like when we talk about going out and doing workshops and discovery sessions and connecting with your ideal coaching clients, right? We really narrow in those workshops to ideal places where they're already spending time. And it's the same thing when you go virtual. Where are they spending time? And so you might think, oh, I've got to be on all these places. But ideally, as you get really clear on that niche, you're going to find, most of them, because of their age range or because of their demographic or whatever it is, are on, this particular platform. So I'm going to go deep there. It's kind of like you're getting your niche, but you're also going to make your messaging go deep as well and have that focus, because you could go really wide and be on every platform, or you could go really deep and spend your time in one place and really make that connection. So that's my 2 cents, Laura. What do you have to say about that?
Well, ditto. Oh my gosh. Yes. Everything that you just said. I think you definitely do not have to do all the things. And that was kind of the main point and message, because you do see so many people saying, you got to do this. Now you got to do this. Oh, this is the new big thing. Be on Clubhouse now. There's so many things. So whatever it is, whatever you pick, whether it's social media or we're talking about how you connect with your audience or the value that you're providing with them, how you nurture them, do that consistently. And then as far as like social media specifically, exactly what Suzanne said about where do they hang out, that kind of thing. You can, I use like Hootsuite or Meet Edgar. There's definitely like specific technology or platform or software essentially that you can use to like batch it together so that it goes from, like, so that's what I like. Currently I use Hootsuite. I'm going to switch over though, I think, to Meet Edgar, but that's sort of a side note. But you can schedule all of it to like create one post and then it schedules to all the different platforms that you choose. So that's another way if you really do want to or feel like you need to be on everything. But I would encourage you first to kind of release that belief that you have to be everywhere and do everything. And if you're feeling like you're already spread too thin, like there might be other areas to take away from so that you can invest more here. If, so look at maybe how you're spending your time in general, as well as kind of what Suzanne mentioned as well. Hope that helps.
Right. Oh no, that's good. Yeah, I do. I do find it time consuming, and then I'm just wanting to make sure I'm with the time that I use, I'm doing the best I can with my time because life is so busy for everyone. And yeah. So
I think batch posting is really helpful. Sure. Yeah. I think batch posting is really helpful. So just if you are going to create some posts, I mean, definitely you want to be in real time as well. But like, I like to batch post a bunch of my content. So like even a month's worth of content. So it's already scheduled and done. So then I don't have, like, I'm not every day or even every week having to figure out, oh, okay, what am I going to post today? Because that to me sounds terrible. I'm not a huge fan personally of social media. So, if there's ways that you can do it sort of once, almost like set it and forget it for a little bit, set it and forget it for maybe a week or two.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds great. Yeah. Thank you.
Well, let us know.
Welcome.
That's a great question though. So many hot topics today, everybody. It's been super fun being with everybody, hearing what you're up to, hearing your breakthroughs about knowing your niche and your process. So I want to thank everybody for joining us for today's episode, and we will see you back here next time. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining me for today's episode of Live Well, Dream Big. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation, and I want to invite you to take your next step toward living well and dreaming big by downloading the Live Well, Dream Big lifestyle book. It's the ultimate guide to becoming your best self and living life on your own terms. You can grab your complimentary copy by going to the link in the show notes or heading directly to iawpwellnesscoach.com/guide. That's iawpwellnesscoach.com/guide.